That is incredible.
Okay, so 25% of homes bought in 2022 under 1 million sold at a loss by 2024.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's just people just wanting to get out.
Yeah,
where they went in high and just like, okay, you know what? And then the interest rates went high, and they're like, and they were in a variable. And that's the crazy thing about the variable, because all right, Mr. Hummell, Mr. Cordick, what's going on, guys?
Hey.
Always great to be here.
Always. Yeah, awesome, man. So what are we talking about today, man? We got market updates.
Hold on. I got to acknowledge everybody's smiling today. How come?
The sun is shining consistently.
That's it, man. That's it. It's like 26 today.
That's it, man.
Finally.
Is it really?
Yeah, it was 26, man. I was cooking in my truck.
Jeez, I went right from the car to here. I guess I didn't even notice.
Yeah. Oh, it was hot as hell.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I do like that.
All right, we are talking market update. I haven't done this in a while. When was the last time we did this? About a year ago or so?
Maybe 8 months or so.
Yeah, maybe about that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know if a lot has changed or not. It's just still shitty.
Yeah. I guess you got to acknowledge that. You know, you put it right out there.
Yeah,
that's it.
Absolutely.
No hiding.
Yeah. All right. So let's do this. Why don't we just dive into it? Because I want to get into market updates for the three main regions that we focus in on. So Toronto, Durham region, Peterborough.
Yeah.
And then we'll dive into, I guess, some articles.
Yeah.
Right? There's some interesting articles out there.
Interesting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess it's boots on the ground. Like, what are you guys seeing? Like, you know, like it's one thing to look at the articles and read and look at the news, but then, you know, something else to be said about, okay, well, now you're actually out there on the streets. What are you guys actually seeing with your buyers and your sellers and the investors, and, you know, the investors coming back? Because it's been rough, man. It's been rough for a lot of investors out there. A lot of people got hurt pretty badly, and they're still being significantly impacted.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But I don't know, guys, the overarching theme, I think, is crash or opportunity.
Opportunity.
Right? Which side of the coin are you on? Is this a crash or is it an opportunity?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And look, we had a great mastermind event, you know, as well too, talking, you know, specifically more on the opportunity side. And I think that's one of the things that you always want to be as optimistic as possible, even during times when it's difficult. Right? Because there's always a silver lining somewhere. You just have to look for it and find it.
Yeah. And I think in terms of the overall market, when you're asking what do we see in boots on the ground, I think you see a tale of two different markets. You have condo market, housing market. So negative news headlines are just going to focus on overlying negative headlines, right? You dig a little deeper, you say, there's a lot more movement in the housing side compared to condo side, right? So everything is market dependent as well, right?
And it always reminds me of and a shout out to Don Campbell. You know, when we used to go to Rain, it was, what was it? Behind the Curtains?
Yeah, curtain,
yeah, Behind the Curtain. And the headlines is always scary, but then when you actually take a deeper dive into the article itself, you realize like, oh, okay, hold on a second. It's maybe not that bad. Or maybe there is a silver lining somewhere in there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Somebody's always doing something, right? There's always something good out of, I don't know, what was it? Out of the fire, something great comes out of all fires, the ashes.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Like that.
Yeah, you're reborn.
Yeah, right.
If you can survive the heat.
New life comes out of the ashes of a fire.
That's it. Yeah. Okay, cool. So why don't we start from Toronto and then we'll go out to Peterborough.
Okay, perfect. So I guess, you know, the biggest headline we've seen in the last week, because April stats, for people who don't know, they come out like around May 5th, right? First week of that next month. The biggest headline was sales down 23% year over year.
Wow.
So that's relating to the transactions that took place. Right.
Yep.
So we see a dip there. In terms of new listings, we saw about an 8% uptick there. But in active listings is where we saw a 54% increase. So we're looking at the amount of inventory. So what does that mean? Simple terms, inventory is obviously rising, right? But something we haven't really seen yet is major price changes. So we're looking at year over year price change, average price down 4.1% in Toronto. So nothing significant from that standpoint.
Right. So we're down 4%. And also too, I believe I read an article where it says that the amount of listings that we have right now, what are we at? 27,000, somewhere around there. I don't know the exact number, but it's just as much as it was back in like 1996.
Yeah, I thought I heard something about that. We're kind of back to that era.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a lot of listings. A lot of listings.
And it is 27,000 and change.
Is it 27,000 and change? Okay. Yeah. Which is probably, a lot of people now that had condos and properties like, oh, well, the market will bounce back next year. Now like, listen, man, I just got to get rid of this damn property because you can only bleed for so long as well too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
so just to recap, prices are down 4% ish. Transactions are down 23%.
And let's keep in mind, last year wasn't a spectacular year for transactions either, right? So comparing those two, right? And that's, springtime. So things are definitely quieter.
Do you think we are in a market similar to the early 90s when it kind of went down, up, down, for about that 5-year, just because of the inventory that we have and the amount of condos that are online. And not only that, also coming online. Like I think there's another 80,000 that's supposed to come online between now and around 2028.
Yeah, I think Chris and I were talking about that briefly too. And that's what we sort of expect to see. Just a flat line, right? No real crazy changes, like this 5% and dips like that. Nothing nothing mind-blowing.
I think who knows again, right? Nobody has a crystal ball, but I think the freehold market will help the condo market in regards to when you look at like the overall, are we down? When you look at those numbers, that is freehold and condos as well too. Exactly. And they're not really building a whole ton of new freehold. But the condos are still a lot that has to come online. So I think the freehold, right? So, but I think the freehold will continue to kind of hold that market up.
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
Yeah.
But it does sound scary because it's true. There are a lot of condos that have yet to be completed, right? And so these now will kind of inflate things as far as the numbers go, right? Make them maybe slightly a little scarier, right? When you think about it, but.
Yeah,
exactly. And that just reiterates the point. You got to really study your market and what you're trying to achieve, right? Because exactly, you see headlines with these numbers, but what does that mean for you as a home buyer or an investor? That's where you got to reach out to your professional realtor and they'll break down your market for you.
Right. And this is definitely a market where you should not be going out to your realtor and saying, you know what, if I get this price, I'll take it. If not, then I'll just take it off the market. This is not a testing market.
Yeah.
This is, I need to sell market, or I need to get out of the market, or I want to upgrade market. And also too, which is, I think, very important, this is where you got to educate your seller now and also buyer, is that like prices go up like an elevator and they come down like stairs, meaning like it's stickier. And so if you're looking to sell your property, you got to get ahead of where that price may be going, because then now you don't want to be caught in that chasing the market, and people get caught in that.
three sales later, like you're referring to, right? And each one was lower than the last, right?
And, and you really got to get ahead of it, right?
Yeah, but that's hard for people to understand. I mean, well, we know this. It's just hard for anybody to understand. Well, my price was this, or I remember this price, and now it's not that number anymore. But no. My house is still worth this much, or this is still what I want. Because I have a slightly better kitchen than my neighbor. Right?
Especially if they put any work into it themselves with their own hands.
Sure.
And then that's triple the price, right?
Right. But it really is hard to come down psychologically, mentally. It's really tough.
And the hard part is, and when you're trying to educate them and you're saying, look, your home was only worth $800,000, and then another realtor comes and says, yeah, no problem, we can put it on the market for $1 million.
right.
And that's the unfortunate part, is that now this other realtor who knows that I don't know whether he knows or he doesn't know, or she knows or doesn't know, it's not selling for that price, right? Because that market, that price has gone a long time ago.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, the price that you came in with, the accurate price, is no longer the price, right? Now it's less. And
Well, that's the stairs down, right?
Yeah.
That
exactly.
Gary was just referring to.
Anything else in Toronto?
No, I think that's the important takeaway, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're looking to invest or buy there, talk to your realtor, understand your micro market, because as Chris just alluded to, the condo numbers compared to the housing market, the houses, that skews some numbers there.
Yeah. Okay. Durham region.
Durham region. So looks like we got a dip of 19% in terms of the number of sales. So again, that's transactions that took place, right? So similar range as Toronto.
Yep.
Average price, we see a 2% decline. Right.
This is Durham region.
Durham region.
Okay.
Durham region. So again, similar to Toronto, right? Nothing drastic, right? 2%, right? In terms of active listings, we're up 36% year over year. So April 2024 to April 2025. So sort of a mirror image of what we're seeing in Toronto, maybe, a little less in terms of the active listings, right? But again, maybe that relates to not as many condos, right, in Durham region compared to the Toronto market, right? Mm-hmm. And the average price is obviously still, right, pretty stable.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So I think,
so like you said, pretty well the same, pretty well mirrored.
Yeah. Yeah. Not
nothing mind blowing here.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. And then Peterborough. Wrap it up with Peterborough.
Yeah. Peterborough, we're seeing, we're only down 3% actually in the sales volume, right? April 2024 to April 2025. Average price down 5%. Mm-hmm. And then the active listings are up 17%.
Okay. So I wonder why. What would you say, Peterborough transactions is
3% down 3%.
Down 3%.
Yes.
Versus up in the other two markets.
No.
They're
other
all
two
down.
are down. They're 23 and 19.
My mistake.
Yeah.
Transactions, right.
Transactions.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So I wonder, what the difference is there. Is it
less condos, I think.
Yeah. Peterborough is very limited, right?
Yeah,
in the condo aspect, right? We've seen some new developments now go up, but very, very limited in terms of the condo side of things, right? Okay. That's just, as we know, we've been out there for years, pretty much just the housing market.
Mind you, you said listings up 54%, active listings in Toronto.
Yeah.
You said 36% up in Durham region.
Yes.
Yet in Peterborough, you said
they're up 17%.
17%, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the trend is there, but it's significantly less in terms of active listings.
Yeah. Right? And I think that, again, goes back to condos. Right.
Okay.
Right. You have a couple of those towers with 300 units each.
Wait a
right?
second. Hold on. Here's the theme. Are we bashing condos here? Is that what we're doing?
No,
I wouldn't bash. Condos.
It's not bashing them. I think it's just a reality. Like you can have two towers, 300 units, right? In those towers, right? So just sheer volume, really, right? Yeah. That's
the only time that I bash condos is when you're using it as a speculative way to make money, and you're hoping, because that's where it can crush you.
Yeah, I agree.
And people have gotten crushed by it. You're using it to get into the market. I used a condo to get into the market. Worked well for me. It was getting in, then I got out. You took some of that money and moved on.
Yeah, I totally agree. But you know what? It's because of the whole speculative attitude, the developers had started really building smaller and smaller, right?
Yeah.
They were building these
micro
bachelor, they went from
dog
one
crates.
bed. Yeah, dog crates, sure. So now the investors aren't buying. The investors, the speculators, sure, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
They have gotten burnt. So the people that are buying condos are either the ones that had bought previously had to close, whether they've made money or lost money, regardless, they've had to close. Or if you were actually trying to get into the market as a buyer, you're going to live there, right? So if you're going to live there, whatever you bought it at, when you bought it, maybe doesn't matter, because you're going to remain there for at least a time, and you're not going to sell before a certain period of time. But as that kind of a buyer, you're not buying the micro condo. You're not buying a bachelor unit, right? You're buying a 1, a 2, sometimes a 3. So my point is, I just wonder now what the condo builders, developers, what their new strategy is. Clearly they're not really, a lot of projects have been put on the side. They're not building. But the ones that are or that have continued to build, have they adjusted? Are they going back to the 1 bedrooms, the 2 bedrooms?
I would think they would. I mean, look, I think they would probably still have some bachelors in there, but not a significant amount. Because I think you would always have a few people that want a bachelor. It allows you to, it's your entry point.
Sure.
It's your entry point
Price
into the
point.
condo
Price
market, price point. Yeah, exactly. To get into Toronto. I think of my daughter, right? She would love to go downtown and get out of, the rules of mom and dad and have, we went to IKEA and she's like, Dad, the little IKEA setup they got there.
Right. Oh, it looks good.
Yeah. It's like, it's, 200 by, it's like 400 square feet. Perfect for her. What else does she want? She doesn't want anything else. She just puts a bed, boom, open it up, done.
Yeah, done.
And then now as things move on, you get a boyfriend or a girlfriend and all of a sudden now maybe a kid. Then you need a 1 bedroom.
Yeah.
Those bachelors you're only there for like a couple of years for the most part, typically.
Yeah, and who needs doors anyways, right?
Yeah.
You don't need a door,
right?
Until you got,
Yeah, so I would think that they would still build them, but not at the rate that they've been building them at.
Weren't they saying 75% of new condos were being scooped up by investors? Right?
Yes.
Wasn't that
75%.
Like
yeah. Well, if you think about it, if you're going to buy a home, you're ready to move out, you're not waiting 6 years for a condo to be built.
Right.
So those are typically going to be your investors, your speculators. And, within 6 or 7 years, well, that should go up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always, as we now know.
Yeah. In this case, they got burnt.
Yeah.
Those guys at this stage got burnt. But the guys before made that party look fantastic, right? We know that party analogy.
Yeah,
we like that one. But unfortunately, at this stage, they did get burnt. So.
Right. Yeah. And look, and Uncle Bob has been doing well for the last, 7, 8 years, from 2010 all the way up to like 2020. It's like, man, Uncle Bob, he got a yacht now. And all he does is just parks his money. He buys 6 condos and cashes them out. Yeah. And then now all of a sudden, guess who comes late to the party?
Yeah. So timing is important for sure. Now, timing the market is really difficult. Some people have done it. Yeah. Most people don't. Most people can't. Right. But we also know that realistically, time is your asset. As long as you can hold the property, as long as you can hold that property, even if it's a condo, you're still going to be all right, providing you can hold it for the long term. But the problem is, and it was exactly what you said, it was the speculation. If you thought today you were going to buy it and tomorrow you're going to sell it for, I don't know, 100,000, 200,000 more, whatever your number is, that's when you had a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
And now what you're seeing downtown is where now there's so much more condos coming online.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're seeing the rent prices coming down. And now you're starting to see tenants move. And now you're starting to see investors doing incentives. Right? They're saying, hey, look, move in and I'll give you 2 months free or
TV.
whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And that's what's happening.
When I first moved here, I went to a place and they were offering me a 2 months rent, free rent, and a free TV.
Really?
Oh yeah, that was. I didn't take it. It wasn't my location and whatever. But I thought, wow, that's really interesting. Meanwhile, the rent had actually doubled from where I came from Montreal. The rent totally doubled, so I was already losing my mind in the first place.
Sticker shock.
Oh yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's dive.
But I would pay for that rent. If I was renting. I would almost give my firstborn now for that same rent that I would have said no to at the time.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, I want to dive into some articles here because some interesting ones. So this one here, who's buying, who's selling, who's losing, what 2024 data reveals about Ontario's housing market. So there's got to be quite a few interesting points here. So this one, Toronto condos represent over 65% of property transfers in 2024.
Wow.
Right. You want to touch on that?
Yeah, I think that relates to, like we were referring to, the condos that closed, right? So now people actually get registered on title, right? Yes, from the builder, right? Yeah. So it's not like people were running out buying resale condos, right? So I think that's why we see that inflated number.
Then single party investors account for 20% of multi-property purchases. I wonder so explain what that means.
So if you are an individual and you've got maybe you've got a home and now you're going to go and buy a second property, right? that would be a multi-property purchaser, right? Somebody who now goes out and buys a second property. But I don't know what the distinction is. I don't know if there's a distinction in this particular case between if you've got your cottage now you bought, or if that's truly an investment property. So that one, there's no distinction there. But then if you can go further in that, then the stats become a little more clear, because then they start breaking down, okay, but what if you've got 3 properties? And typically 3 properties, you might say, okay, maybe those, that's a true investment. 4 properties, 5, and so forth, right? And funny enough, the number actually tapers down, right? I don't even know if that's funny. That makes sense, right? The percentage of those people within that 20% who own 3, who own 4, 5, and 6, that percentage starts to taper down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 kind of deal. And then when it hits 11, boom, it explodes back up to like 7%, right? It's pretty interesting. So I mind you, these guys, there's another article right there that says these guys have really started pulling back, right? So, but I don't think that's unusual, right?
The multi-family, not the multi-family, but the multi-property buyers
have also started pulling back.
Okay.
Right. They're not really
to maybe
buying.
Free up some cash. The high interest rates maybe kind of pinched a few of them, possibly. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I thought this was interesting, is that the median age of Ontario's first-time home buyers is now the age of 40.
Yeah.
That is wild to get into the market, that your first home that you purchased, you're 40 years old. That's crazy.
Think about it. What if someone's coming out and starts renting in their 20s? How are you saving?
Yeah.
On top of the rent, right? Like a substantial amount. Even if you saved $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, how long that's going to take you?
Well, okay, but wait a second. So the median age, right? Is that quite the average, or is that the number in between all of the set of numbers, right? Anyways, I guess we're pretty close to the average, right? So the point is that there's going to be some at 20. There's going to be some who are first entries at entrance at 60, right? As an example.
Possibly.
Inheritance came through.
Yeah, finally, right? Just sit on that damn couch.
That last supper.
She's finally gone. She's finally dead. Thank goodness.
All right. Average holding period for Toronto non-condo properties is nearly 18 years.
Isn't that incredible?
That is.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah. That's why you always need to be farming.
Yeah.
Bringing in new clients as a realtor, right?
Oh, yeah. Because, well, look, I mean, how many times we talk to somebody or even go into a house and the house was built, say, in 2001, 2005 or something like that. And now, you go into the house because they're selling and they want to downsize, right? This was their home for 20 years. The kids are gone now, and they couldn't move, right? That maybe they wanted to move. Maybe they wanted to come in, maybe get a larger home, but they were stuck, right? I mean, we've been talking about affordability. Geez, I mean, that's not just today's topic. It's been the same talk, the same chatter for like 20 years, maybe more, right? When's the bubble going to burst? Remember that? Everybody,
Well, speaking of that, right? Affordability. So do you think we have a housing crisis, or do you think it's an affordability crisis? I've been kind of going back and forth with this with a few different people.
I don't
know. They're saying that there's a housing crisis,
but there's a lot of homes.
There's a ton of homes out there.
Clearly, we just saw the stats.
Right. There's a lot of homes out there. So then, is it housing, or is it affordability? And I've heard people say, "Well, it's pricing." Well, it's pricing if you're the seller because you want a certain price. But if you're the buyer, well, it's affordability because I need it to be affordable.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That sounds the same to me, but okay.
It does. 100% is the same. But at the end of the day, though, if there's so many homes available, why aren't they moving? Then it's affordable. It's not affordable.
Right. It's affordable.
Yeah. I think it's a bit of both in there. As we know, just from our day-to-day ventures as real estate agents, that some houses just get packed up a lot more. So people would like space, right? But they find a way to maximize definitely the amount of people in some of those homes, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. It is incredible.
Okay, so 25% of homes bought in 2022 under 1 million sold at a loss by 2024.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's just people just wanting to get out.
Yeah.
Where they went in high and just like, okay, you know what? And then the interest rates went high and they're like, and they were in a variable. And that's the crazy thing about the variable, because remember there was a point in time from 2010 until, I don't know, 2020, I would say, you were always watching, should I lock in? Should I lock in?
Right.
All the time.
Yeah.
That was always the
Yeah.
conversation. It was never, I'm just going to stay in variable. That was never the conversation. It's like, do variable, but pay attention.
Right.
Pay attention. Every event we went to. And as soon as COVID hit, it was like, I'm variable for the rest of my life.
Right.
People didn't even think about locking in.
Yeah. You know, I forget the stats before, like pre-pandemic. I forget the stats. What was the percentage of people who did variable, percentage of people who did fixed?
Yeah.
I think it was more fixed though, right? Wasn't it?
Well,
historically, I would think 100%.
I would think so as well, too.
Fixed, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at the disc profile, I mean, what is it? 67% of people are like SCs or CSs, and so you're a little bit more conservative. So you kind of do more of a fixed, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to gamble. You don't want to take a chance. But a variable, you typically win long term over the long haul if you own the property. But
Correct.
it's not. A lot of people just don't want the.
They like certainty. Yeah, they like the certainty. They like to be able to sleep at night. They like to know what their payments are for 5 years.
Right.
Whatever it is. Let me just read that. Let me just read that point one more time, though, just for the audience, because it could sound a little confusing here. 25% of homes bought in 2022 under 1 million that were sold at a loss in 2020 by 2024, right? So in other words, it's not all homes, right, that were bought in 20. You would have had to sell it between 2022 and 2024.
Right.
And it's 25% of those homes, evidently.
And let's face it, those are individuals who had to sell, not wanted to sell for the most part. Right.
I would, for the most part. I mean, maybe your job took you somewhere else, sure. But I mean, I think you're right. I think it's people who were underwater somehow, couldn't pay the bill. Speculative.
Yes.
Investors got caught up in that too.
And the worst time to sell is when you have to sell.
Right.
Yeah. All right, let's move into the next article here. That was a lot of juice in that one there. Ontario unveils plans, it says, will speed up housing and transit construction. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean,
they've been saying that it's going to speed up housing for how long, right? We haven't seen anything.
Sure. I think what they're really just saying is they're doing another round of slashing development charges, cutting red tape,
right?
Whatever that means.
Making more homes more affordable.
More homes faster.
But what does that mean, though? Does that mean homes for people to purchase, or are we talking about government housing? And it feels like, if I read between the lines, it's more government housing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, I'd be shocked.
Affordable housing. What is affordable housing? For me to buy or for me to live in?
Yeah, what is the definition? Do we have the official government definition of affordable housing? Like, what is it if a developer, they're going to say, okay, we have 10% of the units will be affordable. I've never dug deep to.
I thought affordable was 30% below market rent. I thought it was something like that, right? So maybe that's the official definition, But what does that really mean?
Yeah, and back to your point in terms of the government putting shovels in the ground. Personally, I don't see it.
Well, and the other thing as well, too, if I'm a builder, it has to make sense for me as well, too. The numbers have to make sense. I'm not just going to start building and, hey, I made affordable housing, but I'm losing. Right? No investor, no builder is going to do that.
100%. And is the government going to ramp up and step into the housing construction realm?
Well, okay. So, but the one thing I always think about, and I go right back to this, and I go, we think we want affordable housing, but here's the reality. The reality is, I want affordable housing for you, but I don't want my house price to come down. Right? So all the new homes, you can build them and you can sell them, but sell them at that low price. But for me, my retirement's locked into my house. So I need my price as high as possible. So I don't care. So I think that's the problem. When we talk about affordable, affordable for who?
And I think Justin Trudeau alluded to that before he left office, saying, well, hey, look, we can't bring these prices of homes too low because the baby boomers are counting on this for their retirement.
Of course.
Right. And so are the politicians, right?
So
you don't think they're investors as well, too? And so I think
so is the GDP.
Right. And so I really believe that when they're talking about this affordable housing, it's more along the lines of rentals. And that's why you're seeing that big push now with CMHC and the MLI Select. And what is every builder doing right now? They're not building condos. They're building multifamily, right? That's going to lower the price of rent significantly.
Well, look, okay. So in this article, it says developments given ministers zoning orders do not need to comply with local height requirements, parking rules, or other zoning specifications normally enforced on developers, right? So these are just some points, and I mean, I'm certain there's others, but height restrictions, parking rules, so zoning requirements or specifications, again, red tape or whatever it is, they're purportedly making it easier. But you said I still got to make money as a developer, to be able to make this actually happen. I've got investors I've got to pay off.
Yeah.
I got to make some money. So you can present some of these options, and they may lessen the obstacles, right? But it's still tough to actually build and make some money. So MLI Select, on the other hand, has become very important, right? A lot of investors, especially all the ones that we've been seeing, certainly taken to the property tours, and the small builders, even the larger builders, right, that we've seen. These guys are all tapping into MLI Select.
Yeah,
right?
A lot of that.
Oh.
Yeah,
that's it. That's how you have. It seems like it's how you have to do it.
Right.
So that point is that's at least a positive. That's a positive step as far as program.
Yeah, but then do you see rents coming down significantly? Well, and also keep in mind too, what's the percentage of investors that have bought condos, and how many of those are coming online? Then how many people are doing purpose-built multifamily properties that'll be coming online. Yeah. And it's almost like you're going to see this flood of,
rental inventory.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, listen.
In a particular region, like I don't know if you're going to see a lot in, say, Peterborough. I don't think that'll be a major impact out there, but I definitely see it maybe in parts of Durham and definitely in Toronto.
Okay. Well, listen, if you listen back to some of the podcasts that we had done, that even that you guys, you've done over with various guests, a lot of times, the thought was, well, rents won't come down, rents continue to go up, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that was something that I'll say you said, we said, we all thought, okay, but now rent prices are coming down, but there's got to be a floor.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Yep. There's got to be a floor. And again, pull back. And I still think the same thing with homes as well. Sure, we're in a pullback right now. But again, with time being the asset, if you wait long enough, you're going to see price points still move forward.
Yes.
They're still going to go up.
And so when do you see that happening again?
As far as rental prices?
Rental prices and home prices, when do you see that stability come back into the market?
Listen, it's really hard to consider that now because we're so quote unquote caught up in this uncertainty right now. And you can name anything, right? South of the border, local, it doesn't matter. It's just uncertainty. The market is hurting, right? So how that's going to turn, when that's going to turn, that's hard to say. Yeah. I mean, obviously, with the interest rates coming down, maybe that's helpful. But then now you got to consider inflation, right? What happens? So now you also got to consider, jobs, right? So or unemployment, right? So all of these are factors. It is hard to predict, and I think the best way to handle that is that it's always been hard to predict. It has, but you go back into history.
Yeah, it always been hard to predict. And so then you just take that out of your model. You take it out of your model as an investor.
Okay.
I think it's going to take off in 2028. You don't even worry about that when you think it's going to take off because you don't know.
Yeah.
And so then all you do is you just buy today at the numbers that work with properties that are available in the market. And then you force appreciate it and you know what type of rents you should be able to get That's how you win the game of real estate.
Right. So forget about tomorrow. Forget about what you can't control. Sorry, forget about yesterday. Forget about what you can't control. You know, don't think about really tomorrow. Think about today.
Today. What can I do today, and what can I change it to so that it will work in today's market? You know, listen to Matthew Frederick. He's like, I had to make deals work at 13%. He always throws it out, or 14%.
Well,
right?
That's true.
And so then you look for deals that work in today's market at that rate, at that amount of doors, and that strategy. Period.
Bingo. The principles never change. The numbers. Analyze your numbers. Does this work for my long-term goals?
Strategy.
It's the market that changes, right? And how you have to seek your opportunities. But why you buy never changes.
Yeah.
Right? Like we look at the numbers don't lie. It's not an emotional business. It's a numbers-based business, right? And this type of market, there just happens to be more opportunity, right? So your return on investment might be a little higher than if you bought in a market that was, you know, hotter during COVID, but follow your plan.
Yep. Yeah. And here's another really good strategy as well, too, is to have 2 exit strategies. Right. Yeah. Like I remember with one of our clients back in 2017, they're like, oh, we want to do a flip. And the market was taking off. And it was like at the beginning of 2017. And then as soon as they were ready to do the flip, and I told them, I was like, okay, if you're going to do this flip, cool. I'll help you find a property that you can do a flip on, but you have to convert it into a 2-unit.
Right.
Just in case if you can't flip this property. And guess what? Kathleen Wynne comes out. All of a sudden the market goes down. We can't flip it because the prices are done. And so then they rented it out. And so then they got saved by at least having 2 strategies. You buy a condo, your only strategy is out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why all the heavy lifting is done up front. Yep. What is the plan, right? Yep. Then you execute the plan and you understand if it goes this way, I got to pivot, right?
Yep. And you touched on inflation as well too. What's inflation at right now? What are we saying at 2.2%?
Oh, geez. I thought it was like around 2.3. Yeah,
2.2,
like
2.4, somewhere around there. So, okay. So within target, a little above target.
Yeah, within that range. And then what was unemployment now was at 6.9.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's one of the stickiest points right now, right? Is the unemployment. A lot of sectors in uncertain waters, you know, the job losses, I think. So I think that's what's hurting confidence the most in our marketplace right now.
Yeah.
All
right. Let's dive into one more article and then we'll kind of do a bit of a boots on the ground on what you guys are seeing. So evaluating apartment building sales in Canada's 3 largest market, investments and transactions activity has been on the rise in Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. What's in this article here?
Well, so apartment buildings, right? That's the number one. That's the first thing. So we're not talking condos. We're talking about multifamily residences. And so they were talking about multifamily vacancy rates, which are still pretty tight, right? Toronto, so Vancouver being 1.6%, Montreal being 2.1%, Toronto being 2.5%, 2024, right? And they wanted, so now we're making a comparison to some major North American cities, which is interesting. New York City, what do you think? Higher or lower?
Higher.
3.1%, right?
Okay.
Vacancy.
In New York.
In New York, right? Okay. San Francisco, tight market. You know, it's tight market. Expensive market. What do you think? Higher or lower? Vacancy rate.
Higher than what? Sorry, higher or lower than?
We're in Toronto at 2.5%.
Okay, vacancy. Higher or lower?
Multifamily.
Man, there's a lot of crackheads out there. Ain't nobody bringing them in. I'm going to say it's higher.
It's warm. It is warm over there. 4.2%.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry for people that live there. I apologize. It's a beautiful city. I've been there, but man, you know that song, The Freaks Come Out at Night? Buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, they come out at night.
I've done a date. I've done just a day trip over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. I haven't done the night.
Oh, hang out at nighttime. Oh, yeah. Different ball game.
Orange County, California, 3.8%. Detroit, San Diego, also large cities, 4.5%. So we've got a very tight rental market. Still.
What's Peterborough? Peterborough still what, under 2? Man, I know at one point it was 1% or under 1.
It was under
like
1.
0.8.
Yeah,
I remember 0.8 at one point in time.
I think it's in between the 2.5-3%.
Yeah, I think it's
right
probably
now.
in that range.
I think it's in that range right now.
Which is still tight.
Oh, 100%. I know, just filling a vacancy last month, Yeah, I was very happy with the response and the turnout for viewings, right? Because I know we did have a dip in 2024 there, where it was taking a little longer for people to fill their properties, and so yeah, I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
So, the article goes on to say that, with 6.7 million people in the GTA, there's always going to be supply constraints, right? Um, it's it's effectively laying out that there's always going to be bids for quality assets across the GTA, right? So, quality assets being the purchase of these investment properties. There's still a lot of large groups still buying rental properties or rental units, rental buildings. And of course, the larger guys have now thought to convert to apartment buildings as opposed to building condos. I mean, clearly, right?
Yeah.
Some of these guys, even who have already potentially begun starting these projects, some condo developers are exploring conversions now to rental buildings due to slow sales.
Yes.
Right.
I've seen that.
Yeah. So he's not seeing many new shovels in the ground for condos, but we're starting to talk definitely about, hey, let me change my project now over to a rental project.
Right. And then that goes back to what you talked about earlier. Like, if they get back into the condo market, they will do a whole new reconfiguration of how many dog crate condos they're going to build. They're going to be like, look, this we'll do a handful, but we're not doing a lot of them.
Yeah. There's not going to be a lot of micro apartment units.
No, I don't believe so.
Right.
Not until there's another big wave and there's a need for it again, maybe potentially, but yeah, they'll switch for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I want to wrap it up with this year. And what are you guys seeing right now, boots on the ground? Because I mean, one of our bread and butter, obviously, for many, many, many years has been working with real estate investors. What are you guys seeing? What have you guys seen, we'll say, over the last year and a half, and where are we today?
Yeah.
Well, I think in our markets, well, especially in Peterborough right now, I think we're seeing that opportunity with the prices being softer. The council and the municipality of Peterborough opening up to saying, hey, 4 units is going to probably open up, maybe even this year.
They
right?
haven't passed it yet, though, right?
No, not that I'm aware of. But so that's a game changer right there, right? Of what you can do, highest and best use of properties with interest rates, on the way down and prices softening. You have that long-term vision. You can buy the right lot right now. There's definitely opportunity there, in my opinion.
Right. And then what are the investors? What have you seen there over the last year and a half? Because I mean, man, it was nonstop. We didn't call nobody. It was always our phones were ringing, right?
Yep. And we're seeing like that article where Chris was alluding to. We've seen people maybe sell one off in their portfolio and just stabilize everything, right? I think right now we're only at the early stages of these buyers starting to pop their heads back up and ask us more questions. We're seeing the turnouts at our property tours. We're seeing an uptick in that. So I think the savvy ones are starting to say, hey, I'm sniffing opportunity here. Whereas last year, this time, they weren't sniffing for any opportunity.
Yeah. They definitely are coming. What are you seeing, Chris?
Yeah,
Same thing?
I see effectively the same thing. I see, some people sniffing around a little bit more. But for the most part, the smaller investors, the mom and pops, they're not there. But they are coming out.
Yeah.
They're still curious, and I highly suspect that when things kind of settle, maybe more certain, I don't know, whatever you want to say, I believe that they will be coming back. And I believe that if you look back in history, we've been here before, right? Now, I haven't, right, personally, but we have, collectively been here before. And, if you just, what's your thing, man? It doesn't rhyme. It doesn't repeat. It
rhymes.
It rhymes, right?
Yeah.
History doesn't repeat. It rhymes. And frankly, I look back, I was looking at, 1989, 1990. I was looking at 2000, 2001. I was looking at 08, what is it? The 2017.
Yeah.
And I think there's a parallel there.
Yeah.
Right. And what I also see is that prices continue to go up. And I still see investors having bought and purchased, and I still see the market chugging along, right? I mean, we haven't, and right now we're in a very similar lull, right? You look 2022, and it's dropped down, and we're kind of in that basin. You know what I mean? Like a cup. You know, we're at the bottom of the cup. Maybe we're not quite the bottom, but we're certainly, down deep.
I agree.
And I think there's, an opportunity right there for anybody out there. But what we are seeing, though, at least, what I believe that we're seeing is the investors with, some deeper pockets are out there actually building.
Yep.
Right? They're building 4 units. They're building 6 units. They're building triplexes. Right?
Yep.
I mean, even in our circle.
Yeah.
Right. This is what they're doing.
Yeah. And you're going to look back, guaranteed. I can almost bet anything on this. 10 years from now, I'm like, man, what a great move that was. What a great move. And everybody was scared. And people just went out there and threw offers in.
Yeah.
And picked up great deals. And this is where you pick up good deals.
Yeah.
And you've said this before too, Chris, is that people don't play to win, they play not to lose.
Yeah.
And so they go and they take a look at the property, like, well, why is nobody else offering on it? So there's something wrong. There's something wrong with this property because nobody else is bidding on it. And it's like, no, but this is a great deal.
Exactly. But that's the mentality. And it's hard to wrap your mind around it because you play the same game.
Yep.
You play the same game. You're always looking for a reason to say no. When instead, it could be the reason, this could be the one. This could be a great deal, a great property.
Yeah.
But it's 15 days on the market.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on?
And then all of a sudden you tell them like, an offer came in. Oh, I was just talking to the wife and we're going to put an offer in now too.
Right.
But listen, now they want to bid. Now they don't play to win. They play not to lose, right?
It is very strange. But I still think you're right that name your time frame, 10 years. You're going to think, wow. Either you're going to think, wow, what a great time. I'm glad I made that move. I'm glad I bought.
Yeah.
Or you're going to say, man, what the heck was I thinking? How come I didn't buy, or how come I didn't buy more? In fact, I'll bet you in 10 or 15 years or so, you'll look at 2022 at the height and go, man, that wasn't even that bad.
Yeah.
Wasn't even that bad.
You're right. Yeah. Especially when you look at a chart and you pull it out and you look at it and like, oh, there was a little blip.
Yeah.
It was just a little blip on its way going up.
Yeah. Now, again, provided you can maintain.
Yeah.
Provided you can maintain, provided your strategy, your numbers, your fundamentals still applied, still worked, you're in good shape, man.
Yeah.
You'd be all right.
All right, guys, listen, that was a great podcast. I think it was a good little market update.
That was short, man.
That's long, man. It was like 45 minutes, brother.
I
know you want to do a Rogan style. We'll do that one day, but not today. All right, man. Any last kind of closing words before we wrap it up?
Closing thoughts. Don't look at the headlines and the news to make your decisions, right? Look at your personal situation, talk to your team, your professional team, make your decisions based on that because everyone's circumstances are different. If you're in a position now where you're not worried about your employment and you have the means to take action, this is the time, right? If you're in a situation where your job's uncertain, sure, that makes sense. Pull back. Don't take any action, but don't base your decision on the news, the headlines. Sales were down 23%. This is a time. Don't use that as the crutch to make your decision. Mm-hmm. Look at your circumstance and then base your decision off of that.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just go back to crash or opportunity. This depends on your mindset. Depends on what side of the coin you're on. And Quinton even said that. Don't make this don't use this as an opportunity to say no. Mm-hmm. Use this as an opportunity to explore, right? Open up.
Yeah.
This isn't the no period. This is the open up period. Have a look.
Yeah. And I'll say this as my final words is that whether it's crash opportunity, to me, it's got to be opportunity because we've already had to crash. It's come down, 25, 30%. How much more? Government ain't going to allow it to go down much more than that, man. Right. If they do, you're going to see those rates come down fast and quick. Mm-hmm. So great opportunity right now. All right, guys. Thanks for doing this with me.
All right.
We'll do it again.
Until next time.
Awesome.